Hello and welcome to IMHO. Today I'm going to be asking Carolyn Shelby about is AI search overhyped? Carolyn's career in SEO started with her co-founding an ISP in 1994. She's led SEO initiatives at Disney and ESPN and strategy for major digital brands including Tribune Publishing. Today she's a consultant at Seashell and is the principal SEO at Yoast as a consultant. Right now, SEOs are swept away by AI, but how much value does it really have? Carolyn, you said recently on your podcast that less than 1% of traffic currently comes from AI tools. Are SEOs being distracted by a shiny new thing, or does the brand awareness in LLMs actually provide value? So, Carolyn, I'm going to just jump in and ask you, do you think that AI search is overhyped right now?
The AIs are changing how even Google functions it is dramatically changing the landscape in terms of how you can make money on the internet. The the blogging for dollars economy is going to collapse. It is in the process of imploding. It will continue to implode. It is not a viable going forward sustainable business strategy to spin up garbage content sites and slap AdSense all over them and then make enough money to live. Hobby creators or people that are creating out of love will continue to create because they're doing it for themselves, not for the money. And the amount of money they will make will be enough to maybe buy them coffee every month, but it is not going to be enough to pay their mortgage. So the people that are looking for the money to pay their mortgage or buy them a Lamborghini are going to go where there is money to be made, which is over to TikTok and over to YouTube and over to the video platforms. It's not going to be in blogging. So there's that. It's the, and even getting back to the 1% of a trillion is still such a big number that our brains have a hard time comprehending it. If you told me today that if I focused on nothing but let's say ChatGPT, and I could guarantee I would monopolize the 1% of traffic or 0.25% of traffic that it's driving to websites, I would jump on that because that is so much traffic. You can't think about it in terms of just percentages because I think the percentages are deceptively small. I think if you look at the raw numbers and then start thinking about your raw numbers, you see the opportunity there. Even if we can nibble away at be part of that traffic that's being nibbled away from Google, that's a lot of traffic. Even if, well, we've always told people in the past, look at where your traffic is coming from. If you get better converting traffic from Bing than you get from Google, even though Google sends you more traffic, focus on improving the amount of traffic you're getting from Bing because that traffic is converting better. It's better to have the traffic from the people that convert, and it's better to have people coming to your website that are going to convert in general. If you can increase that, increase that. I wouldn't call this overhyped. I would just call this a shifting mindset, a shift in a paradigm. But you can't just say, oh, I'm just going to focus on Google because Google has a bunch of things going on. One of the things they've got going on is people are trying to knock them off their perch, obviously. But another thing they've got going on is they're trying to fend off the Department of Justice in the United States from breaking them up. Now, we already know that judgment has come down and they're not going to force them to divest Chrome completely, but they are going to try to force them to share the data that Chrome generates and gives to them, which gave them the competitive advantage that they had that made them the monopoly that they are. They're still fighting that. Just because that was the judgment doesn't mean that that's going to be what is enforced, because now that the judgment has been made, now they have the opportunity to appeal. They were not able to appeal until that judgment was issued. So now we're in the appeals process. And during the appeals process, they need to prove that they're not a monopoly. They need to prove that they don't hold absolute control over absolutely everything that happens, which means they're going to be inclined to allow other people to encroach on their position because that reinforces their point that they're not a monopoly. So there's a lot going on, but I think if you ignore these other opportunities with the LLMs and with AI, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
So, do you think SEO is just going to settle into this space of evolved search that integrates AI? And do you think, obviously, you were talking about Google's dominance, and it's interesting that you think that Google's taken a long play here by allowing a little bit of competition. But do you think that they can actually claw back their dominant position with AI mode as a hybrid experience? Or do you think they are going to lose that dominance?
I think if they have to share the Chrome data, that I think that is their biggest competitive advantage. If you look at all the data and user signals that Chrome sends back to them, if suddenly that's available to everyone, the speed of their innovation and the it's innovation, it's the performance, everything they do relies so heavily on that data that they collect that if they end up having to share that, I think that is going to dramatically reduce the odds that they can claw back their dominant position. Or like if I don't know if you guys speed a lot in the UK. We speed a lot in the US.
Yeah.
You take your foot off the gas and you see the policeman sitting up at the corner with the speed gun, and as soon as you know you're out of range of the speed gun, you floor it. They're waiting till they're out of range of the speed gun and then they'll drop their foot again. But, you take the Chrome data away, that's a different story, and I think that would sort of be taking the gas out of their engine.
What do you actually think of AI mode? Have you played with it much?
Um, we get it, so we got it early in the US and I see it and I generally find it annoying when I'm trying to use Google like I'm accustomed to using Google, which is to search for things specifically. If I ask it a question, like I'm talking to ChatGPT, it is giving better answers than it was in the beginning. Um, I I feel weird asking Google questions like I would ask ChatGPT. And I don't know if that's a me thing or if that's I'm conditioned to interface with ChatGPT in one way and I'm conditioned to interface with Google in a different way. And my habits just haven't changed yet. So that could be a time thing where I get more used to it. I think there's a learning curve, I guess is the bottom line. We might all just get used to it because there's no choice. And with Google's dominance, it's hard to imagine that it's really hard to imagine that there's going to be so much resistance to it that they would roll it back. I don't think they're going to roll it back. I think it's here to stay. I think they're going to take steps to make sure that we all get used to it and that we all start using it the way they want us to use it to get the best results. And they're in a position to do that because they have so much control of the market. They'll just keep giving us bad answers and we'll keep trying again because that's what we do until we figure out how to get the answers that we want out of the machine. And then together we'll all keep iterating. Um, it's here to stay. I don't see it going away. It's already too much a part of everything and all of the other. It would be ridiculous for Google to say we're going to not evolve and we're going to stay the way we've been doing things for 20 years while everyone else is doing AI. It's I don't see that happening. There's too much investment in the infrastructure. There's too much integration of it already in the back end systems, and it's starting to get baked into so much else. It's to everyone's benefit to learn how to operate within this new environment.
Yeah, Google has actually had AI integrated for what is it, at least 10 years. So it really is
Oh
just an
yeah,
evolution of their product, isn't it? And Google has stayed that number one dominance by continual iteration and evolution. I'm just kind of fascinated with it being such a huge leap of it's almost like going back to search in the early days, learning to search again. So for users, it's interesting to see how they're going to handle that. And I think it might take them some time to catch up. But certainly, I do think that AI mode will probably be the default in some form, perhaps not quite where it is now. Um,
they might keep the regular old stuff around in some fashion or in some part for the people that are difficult or having a hard time adapting. If you look at if they make the cutover and make the AI mode the prominent initial interface, they're getting all of the kids that are just starting to use the computers at the entry point. So they will know nothing else, and this will be second nature to them. If you look at the people that were already in their, I don't want to say 30s, but because that makes 30 sound old, but they were already well into adulthood when the internet itself kind of came to be publicly common. They had a hard time adapting to just typing in specific keywords. People may or may not catch up, and there's old people that are still using AOL for email, and now they're freaking out because AOL is turning off the email. It's there's going to be segments of society that don't ever really catch up. But I mean, eventually these people are going to start dying off, or their eyes are going to get so bad they can't use computers anymore, or they're not allowed to have internet in the old folks' home. So there's going to become a point where they don't need to support that mark anymore, and they'll do like AOL did, and they'll shut the email off. So it's it's definitely here to stay, I think, but I think they're going to support the troglodytes and the slowpokes until they don't financially need to support them anymore.
The people that still use a pen and a piece of paper to write a list.
Hey, I do that.
Yeah, I
That's
know. Yeah, lists are great. Um, so I was just going to ask you actually, what do you think in sort of in light of all this, what do you actually think that SEOs should focus on right now?
I think I have many thoughts on this actually. It's a very layered question. So I think SEOs for the most part have been ignoring, well, not everybody. There's a significant segment of SEOs that have been ignoring certain aspects of the marketing portion of SEO, which is public relations, PR outreach, getting those citations in, even if they're not linked to in newspapers and in media outlets. There's a lot of marketing aspects that have been ignored. People think that if they just stuff the keywords or have a sitemap or do this technical thing over and over and over again, it's going to print money. And it's not. I think focusing on, if you want to call it technical, the technical fundamentals of, is my site crawlable? Is the content that I need the machines to read readable? That's really what it comes down to. So can the machines traverse your site and retrieve the data, the content? And is the content retrievable in the way you need it to be retrievable? So we know right now that many of the LLMs at not in the training layer, not when they're retrieving data to train on, but at the inference layer when they're just grabbing like grounding content, Google will read the code, right? But we know that certain other products, and I believe specifically it was like Anthropic, the data that they grab is only the data that can be viewed on first view. So if there's anything in a toggle, they're not going to see it. If there's anything hidden behind a tab, they're not going to see it. Um, and they're not taking the source code itself. When you do a curl or a get, it's going to give you the source of the page, right? They're parsing that. So they're rendering it and parsing it, and they're stripping out the HTML. They're just looking at the text. They're not seeing anything that's hidden. They're not necessarily seeing the alt text anymore. There's stuff that isn't going to be found. Your job is to figure out what is being found and making sure that the message that you need to have conveyed is in that stuff that is being read. If it's not, if it's hidden in something, you have to unhide it. That is your job. Your job is to make sure the message is visible and accessible by every single machine that needs to be seeing it and accessing it. There are a lot of different things to do to get to that point, which is what constitutes SEO, right? But making sure that it's accessible and it's the message that you want seen, that if you boil it all down, that is your job.
Yeah, I mean, I say this to everybody I speak to. I'm actually quite excited about. I mean, it's been very stressful and it's been challenging. It's been hard work for everybody the last few years. But I'm also quite excited about what's happening right now because I think that the industry will become better for it in the end. I know it's been really difficult, but when we look back in a few years, I think we'll say that it's forcing people to be more creative and to actually do marketing. It's like you said, you just picked up on a really good point. We have to now do marketing. It's not just sort of an easy, SEO was easy for a while, keyword stuffing and 10 blue links, but now it's about, really having to think about your campaigns and where is your audience and, having a strategy. So, but anyway, it's been really great to speak to you, Carolyn, and thank you very much for offering your opinion. Just before we wrap up, I just wanted to say, I believe you're speaking, you're doing a keynote at the State of Search coming up in October, and you have a discount code for people who want to go to that. So people should hit you on LinkedIn or X, Twitter. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm Seashell on actually pretty much everywhere. So it's C like Carolyn and Shell, Shel like Shelby. It's really easy to remember if you remember that part. But I'm Seashell pretty much everywhere on the socials. So if you're interested in coming to the State of Search in Grapevine, Texas, and you would like the discount code, let me know and I will hook you up.
And you also do the SEO update with Alex Moss on for the Yoast podcast. Is that every month as well, where people can catch you?
Yoast.com/webinars, and there'll be a link to the next one where you can register to join, or you get the recordings from the old ones.
Fantastic. And for anybody watching here, just remember, please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on of the great interviews that I have with some of the top minds in SEO. And I've also got a newsletter that I'm preparing. So head on over to shelleywalsh.com/IMHO and you can sign up there. So Carolyn, thank you so much for being my guest and offering your humble, honest or humble, I never know which one, opinion. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.